Okay, so good morning, students. How are you guys today? Okay, I'm glad that everyone is doing great in this class. So, before we start our lesson for today, let's pray first, shall we? Okay, pray begin. Finish. Okay, so before we continue, I'm going to check your present list first. Uh, Johan, Ami, Miranda, Tata, and Alfionita. Okay, so our material for today is going to be about explanation text. But before I explain what explanation text is, I'm going to tell you guys about the learning objectives of this material for today. Okay, so the learning objectives for our material is to explain what explanation text is, and then second one is to identify its structure and language features, and then the third one is to write a short explanation text, and then the last one is to present it confidently. So by the end of this lesson, hopefully everyone is going to be able to explain what explanation text is, and then identify its structures and language features, and write a short explanation text by your own, and hopefully you guys can also present your short explanation text confidently. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, so can you guys tell me about this picture, or maybe can you guys tell me um, what phenomenon is happening in the picture? Okay, so the phenomenon in that picture is rain. So, before we move on to our material, I have a video that I provided from YouTube, and it is about how rain is formed. And I want you guys to watch the video and listen to it carefully.
Hello, friends. I am Drippy. You know that rain makes the grass green and it makes your garden grow. Have you ever wondered what makes rain, though? Let's learn, how does rain form? First, we will need the sun. So, here is the sun. When the sun shines, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation. Because gas is lighter than liquids, water vapor rises up into the sky, and they further move up into the way from Earth's surface due to the temperature of gas. So, in the sky, the water vapor cools and changes back into tiny water droplets. This change of water vapor into water droplets is called condensation, and it's the opposite of evaporation. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets, so when condensation occurs in the sky, clouds form and grow. Let's see it from a closer perspective. The droplets bang together and form even bigger drops. When the drops get heavy, they fall because of gravity. They even grow and bump into one another on their journey from the cloud to the ground, and every single raindrop that reaches the ground is made of 1 million of the original tiny water droplets. Raindrops fall on the ground's surface when the sun can shine on them, and the whole process happens again. This whole process is called a water cycle and keeps the water moving from the ground to the sky, fulfilling the water needs of the plants, animals, and people to survive. So, now you know how do raindrops form and fall. Let's summarize this. Steps of water cycle. Evaporation. The changing of water into a gas is called evaporation. Condensation. The changing of water vapor into water droplets is called condensation. Precipitation. Water falls from the sky in the form of rain, snow, or hail. This process is called precipitation. Collection. Oceans and lakes collect water that has fallen. Water evaporates into the sky again, and the cycle continues. Stay tuned by subscribing to us for more cool videos.
Okay, so
Hello,
based
friends.
on that
I am
video,
Drippy. You know that rain makes the grass green and it makes your garden grow. Have you ever wondered what makes rain, though? Let's learn, how does rain form? First, we will need the sun. So, here is the sun. When the sun shines, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation.
So, what is an explanation text? An explanation text, also known as an explanatory text, is a type of non-fiction writing that explains how or why something happens. So, just like the video that we just watched, it is also an example of explanation text because that video contains an information about, about how or why rain happens. Okay, we're going to continue. It aims to inform the reader about process, phenomenon, or event, often using a sequential or cause and effect approach. Explanation texts are commonly found in science, history, and geography books. Next, so as you guys can see, there are four structure of an explanation text, and the first one is about general statement. So, general statement is about the introduction of the topic. For example, let's say the text is about rain. So, the general statement for that text would be um, the introduction of how rain happens, or maybe uh, about rain. And general statement is usually found in the very first sentence of a text, and then the second one is explanation. And for explanation, it is about um, the explanation that describes about steps or stages of how something happens, like the video that we just saw before. um, there are explanation of how rain happens, and there is also steps of how it occurs, and then the conclusion, it is about the summary from the whole text. And the last one is It is usually in diagrams or tables. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so I have a text example about how rain happens. Now, I'm going to read the text for you guys first. How rain happens. Rain is a natural process where water falls from the sky. It is an important part of the water cycle that helps provide fresh water for plants, animals, and humans. Rain begins with the evaporation of water from oceans, rivers, lakes, and other sources. When the sun hits the surface of water, it turns into vapor and rises into the sky. As the water vapor rises, it cools and condenses into tiny droplets, forming clouds. These clouds are made up of millions of tiny water droplets or ice crystals, depending on the temperature. When the droplets inside the clouds combine and grow larger, they become too heavy to stay in the air. Eventually, they fall to the ground as rain due to gravity. This process continues over and over again in the water cycle, ensuring that the earth has a steady supply of water. So, can you guys tell which one is the general statement? Okay, so the general statement of this text is the one that is marked with the color yellow, and it is the first sentence or the first paragraph of the text. So that whole sentence that is marked with the color yellow is the general statement from the text. And then can you guys tell me which part of the text or which part of the paragraph is the explanation? Okay, so the explanation from that text is uh, the one that is marked with the color blue. As you guys can see, there are three paragraph or sentences that is marked with the color blue. So these three paragraphs are the explanation part for this text. And then the last one, can you guys tell me which one is the closing of that text? Alright, so the closing part from that text is the one that is marked with the color green. So that is the closing or summary of that text. Okay, so moving on. Alright, so there are four language features of explanation text. The first one is simple present tense, and then second one is passive voice. The third one is cause effect conjunctions, for example, because, as a result, and so. And then the last one is technical and scientific vocabulary. And then next slide. Okay, so I have another text for you guys to analyze, and as you guys can see at the bottom of that text, there are three questions, and I want you guys to answer these questions. Okay, so you guys shall start now. Okay, are you guys done? Okay, so the answer for the first question, which sentence is the general statement? So the answer for the first question is uh, an earthquake is a natural disaster that occurs when the Earth's surface suddenly shakes due to movements in the Earth crust. So the general statement from that text is first, the first paragraph or the first sentence, and then the second question: what tense is used in this text? So the answer for number two is the tense that is used in that text is simple present tense to describe how earthquakes happen. And then the last question: are there any passive sentences? If yes, write one. So the answer for the third question is the earth crust. The earth crust is made up of several large pieces called tectonic plates. So that is the answer for all of the questions. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so for today's activity, I would like you guys to write um, a short story, a short explanation text sentence that contains about 5 to 7 sentences. And don't forget to use simple present tense and passive voice if it is appropriate. And then time connectors like first, then, and so on. Is it clear? Okay, if it is clear, you guys may start. And then, if you guys are done, you guys can present it in front of the class. Okay, so are you guys done? Okay, so because everyone is shy and they don't want to read their text, I'm going to take one of your task and I'm going to read it for you guys. How volcanoes erupt. A volcano is a mountain that can release hot lava, gases, and ash from inside the earth. Volcanoes erupt when pressure builds up beneath the Earth's surface. This pressure is caused by molten rock called magma, which collects in a magma chamber. When the pressure becomes too strong, the magma forces its way up through cracks in the Earth crust. Once it reaches the surface, it explodes as lava, ash, and gas. Some eruptions are small and slow, while others can be violent and dangerous. So, the general statement for this sentence is a volcano is a mountain that can release hot lava, gases, and ash from inside the earth. And then the explanation for this text is volcanoes erupt when pressure builds up beneath the Earth's surface. This pressure is caused by molten rock called magma, which collects in a magma chamber. When the pressure becomes too strong, the magma forces its way up through cracks in the Earth crust. Once it reaches the surface, it explodes as lava, ash, and gas. Some eruptions are small and slow, while others can be violent and dangerous. And then the features in that text are simple present tense. And yeah, uh, this is a good example from one of our students. Okay, it seems like everyone is good at making their own explanation text. So, before we end our class today, what have you guys learned? Can you guys tell me what explanation text is about? Okay, so an explanation text is also known as explanatory text. Is a type of non-fiction writing that explains how or why something happens. And then, can you guys tell me the structure of explanation text? Okay, so there are four structure of explanation text. The first one is general statement. The second one is explanation, and then the third one is conclusion. Okay, seems that everyone understands this material. Okay, so I have a task for you guys to do at home. So what I want you guys to do is to make an explanation text, and you guys can use any kinds of phenomenon that you guys want. For example, earthquake, rain, and many others. Is it clear? Oh, I forgot to mention that um, for the task, I want you guys to analyze the text and determine the structures, and yeah, that's it. Okay, is there any questions for today's material? Okay, so if there's no questions, I think that is all for today's class. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you in the next meeting. See you guys.